We are continuing through our journey to become champions in Christ. We are on session 6 today, and as we're reclaiming the land, I want to remind you that a champion fights from a position of finished victory and complete authority. Again, this is not a battle that we are about to enter into and hope that we win. It's a battle that Jesus already won, and we're fighting from his position of finished victory and complete authority. Now, we have passed through the swamp of impurity last week. We have also passed through the cursed road the week before, and we are at this point bringing down Rebellion Mountain. Okay, now, anybody in here have a problem with rebellion? Okay, I don't see any hands, so I think you're all guilty. We're moving from rebellion to submission as we're moving. This is in your manual and page 39. Well, at least we'll begin there. In 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 13, the Bible records that rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance is like the evil of idolatry. And because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. This was God's word to King Saul. So rebellion is the root sin behind almost all other sins. It's choosing our way instead of God's way. So what I want us to do this morning is I want us to begin to understand rebellion. I want us to be able to understand why we move into rebellion, how to move out of rebellion. In Isaiah 53:6, Isaiah records, all of us like sheep have gone astray, each of us have turned to his own way, but the Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. And in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 13 through 15, we find that rebellion seemed to begin with Satan's rebellion. And as I mentioned, rebellion is the root of all sin. Rebellion is saying, I will live my life my way. Not going to live it your way, God. This is my life. I'm going to do it my way. There's a very famous song that was popularized years ago, I did it my way. And I think that many of us live our life and we say, I'm going to live it my way. And unfortunately, even after we become Christians, we still say to the Lord, thank you for saving me. Now I'm going to live my life my way. And rebellion is likened to witchcraft, divination in the scriptures. It's likened to control, because the rebel is moving out of submission to legitimate authority and into assuming illegitimate authority. We're going to talk a lot about authority, legitimate authority, illegitimate authority, moving in and out, and remaining where we need to be. Today, we rebel against God. We rebel against parents. Students rebel against teachers. We rebel against the authorities of the church. We rebel against government. How many of you love paying taxes? Again, we want to rebel against taxes. We want to rebel against the laws. On the job, we rebel against our boss. Wives rebel against their husband. And you may recognize yourself in two ways. Either receiving or giving this rebellion. What do I mean? Well, we live in a rebellious time. We live in a rebellious culture. We live in a rebellious nature and nation. Most countries were birthed in rebellion. That's the history. That's the beginning of that nation. So let me help you understand rebellion. We are called to rebel when submission to any authority would involve our disobedience to God. I think a good lesson of that is in the Old Testament, where Moses rebelled against Pharaoh, but he did it God's way and was called the most humble man on the earth in Numbers 12:3 because of it. But in Acts 5, 28 and 29, the apostles said to the authorities, is it right to obey God or is it right to obey you? Well, we're going to obey God and not men. And in Colossians 2, 20 through 21, we have the decrees of the world. Now, let me suggest that rebellion is a reaction. It is a reaction to somebody having control. Now, that control may be legitimate control, or it may be illegitimate control. But rebellion is a reaction to control. Remember, I said that we all want to what? Control our own life. So let's talk about legitimate control for a moment. Legitimate responsibility or legitimate authority has been received and it's been delegated. Legitimate control flows from legitimate authority. If you have legitimate authority, you can exercise legitimate control. Jesus, when he rose, said what? All authority on heaven and earth has been given unto me. And he delegates that to us. The church has authority over Satan. But you need to understand this. The church does not have control over people. Now, I know too many churches in Kenya, especially, where there is control over people. A church is trying to control what people do, what people don't do. Oh, you can't do that. You can do this, but you can't do that. And they try to control marriages. They try to control relationships. They try to control money, land. Yes. The church has legitimate authority over Satan. I think our hands are going to be full just trying to control him with the authority we have. We don't need to mess with trying to control one another. Husbands too often try to control in the home, but husbands are to lead their home by love, not control. Parents raising children, too often we try to micromanage and control our kids. Bosses at work try to micromanage. In fact, I found that most businesses in Kenya have an authoritarian culture in a business culture, which is a top-down approach where the boss has all authority and you're simply supposed to do what you're told to do. You look around, you find that's not working too well. That's not what God ordained. Now, when you talk about rebellion, you can have active rebellion, you can have passive rebellion. Active rebellion is actively taking control back from a legitimate authority. In other words, this authority has legitimate authority and power, and I'm going to try to take it back. Sometimes I may try to punish, I may try to strike back. I'm going to vent my negative feelings. I'm going to vent my negative emotions. I'm going to be argumentative. I'm going to shout. I'm going to do violence. Any of you ever been there? I don't need a show of hands. But I think we've been there. Somebody has legitimate authority and we react against it. Emotionally, physically, arguments. But there's also passive rebellion. We say yes, but then we do what we want to do anyway. You know, I thought of the two sons in the scriptures. You know, both were asked to do something. One said, no, I'm not going to do it, and then went ahead and did it. And the other said, yes, I'm going to do that, and never did it. Well, that was passive rebellion. And so we can be resistive, we can be uncooperative, we can stuff our emotions inside, but eventually we're going to be like this volcano. We blow up. How many of you have discovered you can only stuff your feelings so long? And then it's like that volcano. It just kind of churns, and one day something happens, maybe something small, and all of this comes out because it's been stuffed down. That's passive rebellion. Now, when we talk about illegitimate control, let me talk to you about 2 reasons. Why do we try to maintain illegitimate control? And then we're going to talk about 4 methods that we use to exercise illegitimate control. Okay, reason number 1, power. Okay, how many of you want power? Again, no show of hands, but I know you would love to have power. You have to do everything yourself. You've got to control. You've got to have power so that you can control, so you can prevent chaos or uncertainty. Many of us hate uncertainty. And if we can just control the circumstances, we can control the outcome, and we don't have to live in uncertainty. And we have to control to fill what we look at as a vacuum. So we want to control, we want power over other people. We want to make them do what we think they should do. Now that, especially as you're an adult, we want power over other people because we want to control the flow of love that comes from them to us. They may not love us, quote, properly, like we feel we need to be loved, like we want them to love us. And so if I have power over Twyla, I can force her to love me like I think I need to be loved. And so we victimize these people. Sometimes it's through sexual abuse. Sometimes I'm going to control through verbal abuse. Or sometimes we control through physical abuse or even positional abuse. Well, you have to do what I say because I'm the husband. You have to do what I say because I'm the father. You have to do what I say because I'm the boss. You have to do what I say because this is my position. But illegitimate control, reason number 1 is we want to gain power. Why do we want to gain power? Because we really mistrust God. That's at the heart of it. Dr. William Backus in The Hidden Rift with God said this: if we want to defeat the power of sin, you and I must learn to ferret out the deep, deep error of believing God is wrong, ridding our minds of every tendency to dispute him and filling our minds with the truth. Think about that. The deep, deep error of believing God is wrong. Now, if I did a theological questionnaire today and I said and asked you, how many of you believe that God is wrong? Oh, no. God is not wrong. God's never wrong, right? That's the theological answer. And yet, most of us at one point or another believe that God is wrong in what he does. God, you shouldn't have done that. Or God is wrong in what he doesn't do. God, you should have acted this way. God, why didn't you prevent that accident? God, why didn't you prevent that death? God, why didn't you heal somebody? Right? He's wrong in what he didn't do. Or sometimes he's wrong in what he does do. Well, I don't like you doing that. Why did you do that in my life? Why did you call me here? Why did you... So God is wrong in what he does, and sometimes he's wrong in what he doesn't do. Often we say God is wrong for acting, but often he's wrong for not acting. He didn't act and he's wrong. He did act and he's wrong. And he's wrong for how he is acting. You shouldn't have done it that way. Couldn't you have done it in an easier way? God is just wrong. Now, I know theologically we're not supposed to believe that. And theologically, that's, God is wrong is an error. But that's how we live. We mistrust God. Why do we want to have control? Because if I leave it up to God, He's going to mess it up. He's going to mess my life up. He's going to mess the situation up. I can't leave it up to God. I can't trust God. I have to have the power to be in control. Well, the second reason is not power, it's pain. We talked a little bit about pain in our men's cell today. Why do we want control? Because we want to avoid, we want to hide, we want to divert, we want to prevent potential pain. You see, none of us like pain, right? All of us like pleasure, none of us like pain. So we need to feel secure that I'm not going to get pained. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm going to be secure. I'm going to be protected. I must be in control and have power because I mistrust God and I distrust God. I must be in control so I can control the flow of love toward me and I can prevent pain in my life. So we scheme and we strategize and we find that we expend great emotional energy in trying to figure out how to avoid pain. We consistently look at the future and go, well, what if this? Well, what if that? Well, what if? And then we create all kinds of scenarios for the what ifs. We plan ahead to cover every possibility and every contingency because I don't want to experience that pain. But lasting security is not available through our control. You know, mark it down, you are going to experience pain today. Okay, now you can guard against it, you can watch out for it, you can guard yourself and try, I'm not going to experience it. It's going to come. It's going to come through a word, it's going to come through something that somebody does, says, doesn't do, doesn't say to you. You will experience pain. I will guarantee it. But we want to be in control so that we can at least mitigate the pain. And if the pain comes, God, why didn't you protect me? You must have done something wrong, God. Having said that about power and pain, we now look at the 4 methods that we can use to try to be in control so that we have power, we don't have pain. Number 1 is the direct control. I'm just going to take control. I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take control of my family. I'm going to take control of everything that's going on. I'm out in the open, and I'm just going to give commands. Do this. Twyla, do that. Kevin, do this. I'm not going to give any kind of reason. I'm just going to give commands. Now, by the way, I've been there, done that, and so most of you. Now, we're just going to be bossy. Now, it's interesting, just in my experience, this may be not your experience, but my experience is most men are not called bossy. But most women, when they take control like that, they're called bossy. I mean, is that true? Yeah. But we both can give commands, and that is a illegitimate method of control. There's a second method. By the way, we have this kind of culture, which I call it an authoritarian culture. We have it at work. We have it in the home where the husband tries to give all the commands, but we have it at school too. Have you ever tried at school to raise a valid point and try to make, at school, the teacher's got control and you don't have any. And it's an authoritarian culture, and you dare not, as a student, open up your mouth or do anything because they're in control. Well, the second way is overt control. Now, this is not always obvious. It may be control through the finances. Yeah, I let Twyla buy stuff. She just has to come to me for every shilling that she wants because I'm controlling the purse strings. But I'll dole it out to her. I'll be very benevolent, but I'm still going to be in control. And there are so many husbands like that in terms of the finances. What mine is mine and what's yours is mine. That's the way, the finances go. Or it could be an overt control because I insist on perfection. You did a really great job, just wasn't perfect. You just need to do more. You need to do better. I had a friend that was such a perfectionist that when he came home and his wife had cleaned the kitchen, he took his finger on the top of the refrigerator to make sure that it was clean. Okay? I mean, that was perfection. Refusing feedback is another way of over control. Don't give me feedback because that is inadvertently telling me what to do. No, that's overt control. Now, indirect control. Oh, we use a lot of indirect control. Do you know that tears in women often is a way of indirect controlling? I mean, a woman turns on the tears and a man doesn't know what to do. I mean, it's like, stop crying! Would you stop that? Because they don't know what to do with them. That's a indirect control, but men withdraw. Okay? And then both pout. And so, if a man doesn't like something, well, I'm just going to withdraw. I'm not going to talk to you. Just leave me alone. Well, what's wrong? Nothing. But just leave me alone, But just leave me alone. But then both of us pout. And the pouting can go on for days. And then we complain. Let me give you a couple of scriptures on complaints. Do everything without complaining or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure children of God without fault in a crooked and depraved generation. Philippians 2:14-15. Or we impose guilt or we impose shame on the other person. And we try to indirectly control them by shaming them into some action. Or we withhold our approval. Or we withhold sex. That's often done in the bedroom between a husband and a wife, where one is withholding one from the other. Twyla shared last week that my body is not mine, but it's hers. Her body is not hers, but it's mine. And we're not to act in this way. My favorite way of manipulation, we call the game of dogs. You know what the game of dogs is? We all play the game of dogs. There's a top dog. And the top dog in the game of dogs wins by winning. I mean, I'm the top dog. I'm going to let you know I'm the top dog. Y'all have seen dogs kind of, take a top position. They're the dog, right? Well, some of us win by winning, but some of us win by losing. We're the underdog. We're the submissive dog. And we manipulate to get our way, but we lose. And in the loss, we begin to manipulate the top dog. And really, we win because we lose. I think some of you who are bottom dogs, you understand that. Some of you who are top dogs go, I didn't know they were doing that. And then there are those of us who are very versatile. Depending on the situation, I'm top dog. Depending on the other situation, I'm bottom dog. I'll be submissive in some situations so I can win. But the goal is winning. Top dog wins, bottom dog wins. This guy wins either way. He just knows how to manipulate. But I've always been here though. I don't like the game of dogs. So I'm going to say I won't play the game of dogs. Okay? I won't be the top dog. I won't be the bottom dog. I'm not going to be either one. I'm just going to walk away from the game of dogs. This guy is still playing the game of dogs. Okay. He's passively playing it. But I found, I do play the game of dogs, but because I'm not going to play. That's how I win. Now, these are all indirect methods of manipulation and control. I won't ask you which dog you are, but I think y'all are one of the four when you illegitimately try to control by using manipulation. And then the fourth illegal method is hidden control. That's the occult, witchcraft, curses. We mentioned some of those on the cursed road before. Now here's the thing about control. It is imposing our will on others. It is my will, not your will be done. It is manifesting illegitimate control, unauthorized authority, and false responsibility. Well, how do you gain freedom? Well, you may not even know that you're doing it. There may be a blind spot. You need to clarify the boundaries between what is legitimate authority, what is illegitimate authority, and responsibility and control. In other words, you need to find out what method do you use to try to control. By the way, we can also look at each other and go, and what method is that person using to try to control me? Oh, boy, it's illegitimate authority. They're using indirect control. That's manipulation. I'm not going to give it to them. James says, but he gives greater grace, therefore, it says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves in the presence of the Lord, and he will exalt you. One man said, pride is a desire to be known for who you are not. Do you want to be known for who you are not? Many of us do. That's pride. Humility is the willingness to be known for who you are. So in humility, we confess our sin of rebellion, whether it's passive rebellion, active rebellion, and we name our method of control. See, God calls us to submission, not rebellion. Be subject to one another in the fear of Christ. Trust God and yield him control of your life. No, God is never wrong. You may not understand it. You may not like it. But he's never wrong. So yield to it, pray for all legitimate authorities in your life. First of all, then I urge that entreaties and prayers, petitions and thanksgivings be made on behalf of all men, for kings and all who are in authority, so that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and dignity. Pray for your parents, pray for your teachers, your husbands, your employers, church leaders, civil authorities, all who are in authority. Often a common source of rebellion and rejection is unforgiveness. Because unforgiveness is often the root of rebellion, we preceded this session with some other sessions focused on forgiveness. And as you move from this section on rebellion, if you think that you're holding resentment against other people, stop, forgive, and release them. We are hurt and feel rejected. We feel pain. We rebel. If you have trouble submitting, you may need to forgive. Talked about these connections. Cosmic battle. Connection to the past, to the present, and the need for forgiveness. Again, you're familiar with this ministry paradigm that we're going to have. And I'm going to release you in a moment. You'll have 25 minutes for each of you. Confess your sin. Do that A through F ministry. Switch partners. Stop at 1:30. And again, as you fill out your inventory, check the left space for the past, the right space for the present. Circle if it's a family issue that you're experiencing. Only do the area on rebellion. if you have time, you can go back and do some of the other areas again. You got it? Okay, we're going to give you some time to mark your sheet.